when Jack lets him borrow the red morpher in order to settle the score with a monster. Sky was a Power Ranger. That's one little sentence at the end. I don't want to do it as a split take and then have another take. If that was the last take in the thing and I was going back, I would probably just do it. But as it stands, 6. I don't have a 6 to point to because I'm wearing blue. Hello there, heroes. I'm the Orange Ranger, and welcome to another Power Rangers Ninja Steel hiatus video. It is the second week in the month of colors, and you know what that means. Super Mega Mode. Ha!
Super Mega Force.
Yo, listen up, here's a story. About 10 Rangers lived in a blue world. And all day and all night, and every time they morphed was just blue. Like them, inside and outside. Spandex suits, and it's a blue little weapons, and it's blue swords, yeah. And everything was blue for them. Every time they fought the evil around. And now it's time for you to just listen to my top 10 Blue Rangers, top 10 Blue Rangers, top 10 Blue Rangers, top 10. Number 10, Noah, Megaforce Super. Gotta have some love for the geeks and the nerds. Noah was clearly written in the mold of Billy since Megaforce was going for that MMPR reboot feel, but there was an earnestness to the character that I really enjoyed. Noah often felt unworthy of the role that he was chosen for, but he always found a way to rise to the challenge. And then when Super Megaforce came around, Noah threw himself headfirst into Gosei's Ranger database and became a key source of knowledge about the Ranger past. However, Noah almost didn't make this list, and I'm not just talking about coming in at number 10. This is something I've mentioned a couple of times before, but I think it definitely bears repeating. In Mega Mission, the first episode of Megaforce, when Gosei's computer is selecting 5 teens to be the Power Rangers, the red screen first stops on Noah before then flipping over to Troy. It's a very subtle note, and the show never actually touches on it again, but it's something that I definitely noticed. Noah was very nearly selected to be the Red Ranger instead of the Blue Ranger. Number 9, Rocky, Zeo. Funny enough, just before I wrote the script for this video, I actually had a conversation with a friend of mine in the comments of a picture the Power Rangers posted on Facebook of Rocky as the Blue Zeo Ranger. The friend tagged me and said that Rocky had been demoted because he had been lame as the MMPR Red Ranger. I told him that I disagreed, and I feel like Rocky gets a bad rap, having been overshadowed by both Tommy and Jason, in different ways obviously, when he was a Red Mighty Morphin Power Ranger. As a Blue Ranger, Rocky had a much more natural fit on that team and really came into his own. He was friendly, enthusiastic, and an excellent fighter. Rocky was a very workaday Ranger, if that makes any sense, only really remembered for the moments that he stepped out of line and acted abnormally, such as in Mighty Morphin Power Rangers with the pachinko machine and just wanting to have fun, or more relevant to this list and this color, the time in Zeo when he felt disrespected and ended up taking on King Mondo all by himself. But overall, Rocky was an excellent Blue Ranger and a great addition to the list. Number 8, Maddie, Mystic Force. Sweetness and caring personified. Maddie was a very demure Ranger, incredibly shy and slow to speak her mind, though that made the times that she did have all the more impact. An interesting thing to note about Maddie is that she was the first Ranger vlogger making short videos about her life. And in fact, if memory serves, this was an aspect of her character written in actually a couple of years before vlogging hit the mainstream. In Mystic Fate, the final episode of Mystic Force, Maddie has one of those rare speaking her mind moments where she calls Nick out for giving up, telling him that he's the team's leader and he is going to lead their team. It's a great moment for her, and it inspires Nick to keep on fighting. But funny enough, my reaction to that scene is that in that moment, she sounds more like the team's leader. A sweet and strong ranger that was as fluid a force as water. Number 7. Tori, Ninja Storm. So let's stick with the water ladies and move on to Tori. Tori was a very interesting character, the only girl on her team, yet not really girly herself, leaving those qualities more to Mara and Capri. She was a dedicated surfer, which leads to one of the show's weirder episodes, Wild Wipeout. And she had a very close friendship with two guys that never turned into romance with either of them, or the two of them fighting over her. Though there was an episode where two of the other guys on the team fought over her, but love potion and, well, anyway. Tori was very loyal and dedicated, even described as the dependable one by Dustin when assigning them all Ranger-style personalities. She did have that sort of burgeoning, yet unresolved by the end of the show, relationship with Blake, a fellow Blue Ranger who, spoilers, didn't quite make this list. And there was that one episode I just mentioned where two guys end up fighting over her due to a love potion, and thinking back on it, that was kind of an unfortunate choice, though to her character's credit, Tori wanted absolutely nothing to do with it. She was just very sure of who she was and what she wanted, and that earns her a lot of respect. Number 6, Sky, SPD. Sky is actually a bit of an outlier in the world of Blue Rangers. Neither the heart of his team, nor the intellectual one. Sky was actually a tough-as-nails type of guy, whose personality really more befits a Yellow Ranger like I described last week. Sky's father was an SPD Red Ranger, whose suit hinted at connections to Time Force that the show never really bothers to officially establish. And all his life he wanted to follow in those exact footsteps. His pride took a hit when Doggy assigned him to be the Blue Ranger, knowing that Jack was out there somewhere destined to be the Red Ranger. Jack and Sky have conflict over this a good way into the season, with Jack very slowly earning Sky's respect. Ironically, but probably intentionally, the moment that Sky accepts his role as the Blue Ranger is also the first time he gets to wear the red suit, as Jack lets him borrow the red morpher in order to settle the score with a monster. Sky is stubborn but warm with his friends, incredibly determined, and righteous in anger. By the by, I wanted to take a quick second here to give some credit to Bridge as well. We see in the last episode of SPD, right at the end as a matter of fact, that after Jack left, Sky was promoted to Red, and right behind him, Bridge was promoted from Green to Blue. Unfortunately, the girls seem to stay Yellow and Pink, but in my headcanon, their green and yellow uniforms just hadn't arrived yet from HQ, and Sophie was back at headquarters being fitted for her pink uniform. Bridge is one of my favorite Ranger characters, period, so I just wanted to give a little shout out to him for his time as the SPD Blue Ranger. Number 5, Koda, Dino Charge Super.
Captain Caveman!
Koda was just an incredibly fun guy to have on the team. A 100,000-year-old caveman brought to modern times through the influence of the Blue Energem, Koda never really seemed to adjust to modern times as much as he tried. Okay, well I guess that's not true. For the most part, he was able to live successfully in the modern age. He just kind of never seemed to fit in with those times, speaking a sort of pidgin English and just having trouble adjusting to modern technology. Koda was incredibly kind-hearted, loyal, brave, and energetic, and like I said, he was really just a fun character to have on that team. Number 4, Ethan, Dino Thunder. Back-to-back Dino Blue Rangers, and another shout-out to the geeks and the nerds. As Linkara pointed out, and by the way, I realize I say that a lot, but I always want to make sure to credit Linkara when I bring up a point that he made, so nobody thinks that I'm just stealing the points from him. Ethan was kind of stereotypically written, especially in the fact that the show avoided licensing issues by having him geek out over fake only in their world things instead of stuff that we'd actually recognize. I had a funny thought actually just now while I was filming this video. If Disney had made Dino Thunder today, owning Power Rangers as well as Marvel, which is honestly barely worth thinking about because they basically swapped Marvel in for Power Rangers in their attracting the boy audience, but nonetheless, if they had made Dino Thunder today owning both Power Rangers and Marvel, Ethan would have been free to geek out about the Avengers, Spider-Man, Captain America, Hulk, etc., etc. However, he still actually portrayed the role more than well enough, and added some sass and attitude to it. Unlike Noah and Billy, more geekier, nerdier Blue Rangers who were reluctant yet willing to fight, Ethan jumped in enthusiastically with 2 feet, embracing his role as a superhero. Oh, and he also actually had a blind date with Cassidy, who was sort of a antagonistic rival to the team at the time, that could have made things even more awkward between them, yet he managed to turn it into a friendship. Number 3. TJ. In Space. Oddly, though In Space is remembered far more fondly than Turbo is, TJ is probably remembered more by people as the Red Turbo Ranger than the Blue Space Ranger. Maybe it's forever red. Anyway, TJ switched to the Blue Dabba-Dee Dabba-Die when he became a Space Ranger, but maintained more or less the same personality. Of course, he deferred to Andros as the team's leader, but still maintained a leadership-type personality by leading by example in battle. TJ was a great battlefield strategist, coming up with some really excellent plans, especially against the Psycho Rangers. And, until the Boom MMPR comics, he was the only Ranger to inspire his entire team to take his color into battle. An entire team of Blue Space Rangers. Well, here we are at the final 2. I have a funny feeling you know who one of them is. The other one will probably surprise you a bit, but I definitely think he's worthy. So, let's dive right in. You get it? Dive because water, because water, because blue. Number 2, Flynn, RPM. In a season that admittedly had some tropey characters, though to its credit it did lampshade that at one point, Flynn flipped things on their head by being Scottish. So, as a tribute to him, I'm going to do his takes in a Scottish accent. Flynn was an engineer who didn't quite fit in, being a heroic person in a world that not only didn't need heroes, but often scoffed at his black and white way of seeing right and wrong. It was only when vengeance attacked and the world needed heroes that he found his place, as Ranger Operator Series Blue. His inventions and technology could be a bit wonky at times, not quite possessing as much intelligence as your standard super smart Blue Ranger, just a lot more heart. He did manage to get things working when they absolutely needed to, though. That Scottish blood gave him a heart for battle and righteousness, and he was warm and friendly to those he called his friends. And he once actually harnessed the power of a huge back explosion in battle, so what more can you say? Sometimes I try to fight nostalgia. Sometimes nostalgia wins anyway. Number 1. Billy, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. This was literally a case where I just could not pick anyone else. Billy set the bar for the Blue Rangers, starting out as kind of a scrawny geek who was picked more for his mind than his muscles. Over his time as a Ranger, he grew athletically into a better fighter, but he started out as someone who, more than any of the others, needed the powers to do the work. Billy holds the distinction of being the only Mighty Morphin Power Ranger to stay on the team in the same color from start to finish, only hanging up his morpher at the beginning of Zeo when 5 subcrystals meant that someone was getting benched. But in his time as the Blue Ranger, Billy was a great battlefield technician, often handling the necessary MacGuffins even in the heat of battle. Billy was molded into the perfect mixture of brains and brawn, and that makes him my number 1 Blue Ranger. You know, I have a strong feeling that we're going to agree on this one, but hey, I've been wrong on that before. Let's take a look at your top Blue Ranger. And consider me surprised. I once again assumed the nostalgia and figured Billy would win this in a landslide. So imagine my surprise when he didn't even make the podium, finishing tied with Flynn and Ethan for 4th with 4 votes. An astounding 16 Blue Rangers received at least 1 vote, but the top 3 definitely separated themselves. In 3rd place is Sky from SPD with 5 votes. In 2nd is Koda from Dino Charge with 9 votes. But pulling out a close, exciting victory was the Mistress of Mist, Ninja Storm's Tori, with 10 votes. The winner of today's YouTube shoutout with their vote for Tori is Matthew's World ENT. Thank you all for voting. Well, we are halfway through the Orange Ranger month of colors, and just like a perfectly cooked steak, we have reached the middle and found pink. In the comments below, let me know your favorite Pink Ranger. One random person who votes for the winner will get a YouTube shoutout. That is going to do it for another Power Rangers Ninja Steel hiatus video. Thank you all so much as always for watching. Make sure to like the video by clicking the like button right down below. In the comments, let me know what you thought of my list of top 10 Blue Rangers. And remember also to submit your vote for your favorite Pink Ranger. Subscribe to the channel to see all the Weekly Geekly. Also make sure that you ring that bell so you get notified of whenever I post new videos. Until next time, for my top 10 Pink Rangers, may the power protect Blue. Rocky as Zeo Ranger... See, that's why I didn't use the number. I think it's 3. As the Blue Zeo Ranger. An interesting thing to note about Maddie is that she was the first Ranger vlogger making... Tori actually didn't want anything to do with it. Tori was... Though that wasn't really resolved by the end of the season, they left that kind of dangling. And adding that ad-lib completely erased the rest of the take from my head. But the tough-as-nails guy that you could see being a Yellow Ranger like I described last time... Yes! Sky and Jack have a conflict over this. Not a conflict. With Jack very slowly earning Sky's respect. That was right, too. Ironically, but probably intentionally, it was the moment... farts. Ironically, but probably intentionally, it was the moment that Sky accepted being farts. And right behind him, Bridge was promoted from green to blue. Unfortunately, the girls seemed... We see in the last episode of SPD, Endings Part 2, so just forget it. Back-to-back Blue Dinosaur Rangers, and a funny thought I had just now while filming this, actually, is that if Disney had been able to, see what happened there? Anyway, TJ switched to the Blue Dabba-Dee like earlier, when he became a Space Ranger, and maintained the same personality. Oddly, though In Space is probably remembered, he was the only one to inspire his team to be an entire Flynn was an engineer who didn't quite fit in, not only in a... Yep. Flynn was an engineer that... It's when I screw with things like this that I have trouble. Flynn was an engineer who didn't quite fit in, being a heroic person in a world that not only didn't need heroes, but often scoffed at his black and white way of seeing right and wrong. It was only when Venjix attacked and... He did manage to make things work when they absolutely needed to, though. That Scottish blood gave him a... His inventions and technology could be a bit wonky at times, not quite possession as much as...